Hey everyone, so we're back for the second part of the flying coaster, and today we have a lot of things to build. Because we're building a dark ride section, we're building a station, a bit of the queue, I go completely mental building a backstage area, and then I finally do the coaster train. So anyways, before we actually get started, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more. Now let the chaos begin. Alright, starting off with the queue, or at least the last bit of the queue, because the full-on queue is going to be the next video. Because this coaster took a lot of time. And here I immediately also want to answer something that I saw in the comments of the first video on this coaster. Of like, oh, this is not a realistic coaster. Yeah, it's not going to be. I'm not a coaster builder. So I will probably never build a fully realistic coaster. I will attempt it, but I will most likely just make it pretty so that you forget that it's kind of janky and not a realistic coaster. So if you come here expecting like a fully realistic coaster, you're probably not going to get that from me because I just don't have the knowledge to build one of those. And also, I just like my coasters to be a little bit insane. And this one is definitely janky. I mean, the last bit of this coaster, as it goes into the unloading station, that's a bit janky. Also, when it goes, like, after the big drop, there's the... how do you call it? There's basically just like a section where the train or the coaster slows down a bit. But going into that is also a bit janky because... yeah, I'm not a coaster builder, so it's never going to be like a fully realistic coaster. But I will try and hide it, or at least make it not as noticeable by just shoving a lot of pretty stuff in your face. So, yeah, that's the entire idea of this coaster. Why do you think that the station is this much there? Also, when it came to the station, as I'm building doors, because of course I'm building doors again. I mean, you have to get inside. And yes, when it comes to like the last section of the queue, I actually did make it so that there is a possibility of like, oh, if the park is like really empty. Empty is not the right word, but like if it's really not busy. I forget the word where it's really calm. I don't know. But that there's like the opportunity of like, oh, they open the front door so that the queue is shorter. And as the park becomes busier, they can open up more sections of the queue to make the queue longer. Which to me is realistic. So I will attempt realistic parts. But I will talk more about the queue in the next video, which I'm already working on. Because funny enough, well, not funny, but also in a way funny to me. Because I should probably also explain why I've been gone for such a long time. Basically, IRL life went insane, and I constantly thought like, oh yeah, this is the week that finally all of the chaos is ending. It's all just becoming calm and such, and then I got hit in the face with another round of chaos. I mean, why? So there was just so much chaos happening, so much things that just had to like calm down. And when there's a lot of chaos happening, even I can get overwhelmed and just want to just sit in a corner and just stare into nothingness. But yeah, so there was a lot of chaos happening, and then finally I was like, oh yes, I can release this video. This is actually the second voiceover that I made. The first one is completely chaotic because yeah, when I don't make voiceovers for a while, all of that chaos just sort of builds up and then it releases in the next voiceover, and then it just becomes completely just like, what the hell is Poison saying? I mean, you're probably thinking this right now as well, but this is a better version so far. But yeah, so anyways, a lot of chaos happening. Then I finally thought last week, oh, I could finally release this video. I can't. Because stuff with the latest update that I had included in the build and I wasn't allowed to show yet. And I didn't want to remove it because I am a stubborn bitch. And it looked way nicer with the stuff. So yeah, that's why I had to delay the video another week, because I had to wait for that update to come out. So yeah. Literally, it's just like I was... Like when you have like... you have those machines at like tennis where they shoot out the balls. Yeah, and I was just standing in front of it. I was just like taking the balls to the face. Don't think of it like that. That's only on Fridays. Actually, no. I'm lonely. Actually, I'm not lonely. I would love to be a hermit. Like, my life's goal is to just go into the forest, have good internet and electricity and such, because I'm not a caveman, and just live there. If anyone comes, I will not shoot them, but I will be very annoyed. Would I be the person to chase them off my lawn, screaming like an old man? Yes, but I would find it funny. Yeah, I just want to be a... I wanted to say witch in the woods, but it would most likely be bitch in the woods. Basically, I've already told this, but I basically want to be the person that in like 100 years people will tell stories of like the hermit in the woods, and then they will slowly become like a hag. Because the stories just like become bigger and bigger, when in reality it was just like, I don't like being around people. Go away, you're too peoply. But anyway, so yeah, I would basically just want to live in the woods and then just adopt a crocodile, bear, something that I can just have that would scare off a lot of people and would potentially eat me when I'm dead. Yeah. Every time I just see like a dangerous animal, I'm just questioning like, is it worth it to die to try and pet the animal? Most of the times, yes. But then it's just like, yeah, nah. But then I would become known as having died trying to pet like a lion. I'm not that much of an idiot. I want to do that when nobody's around, so that I don't become known as the one who died trying to pet the lion. I will do it in secret, and they will never find the body. Anyways, back to the actual build. So yeah, a lot of chaos was happening. Delayed the video another week. I think we've gone 4 weeks now without a video, so sorry. But I'm already working on the next one. But I think I already also said that on the last video, and look where we're now. I mean, where we're now is building doors that were literally a headache. Like, any kind of effects, because like we're building the dark ride section now, but any of the effects were just a headache to deal with, because when it comes to like building custom doors, because I had to build custom doors, because with the hanging or flying coaster, like you have to account for the track that has to be able to go through on the door. Like if it was just like a regular coaster where you're seated and the track is below you, then it's a lot easier, because then you can just have doors and then the lower section is empty or open. But here I had to take into account like, oh yeah, the tracks go overhead, which means the doors have to be special. And then try and figure out how to make the doors work was annoying, because you can't set those to like a set timing. So I had to be very careful of just like having multiple of like the platform movie thingies, so that I could make it so that the doors would open. As they would attempt to close, they would open again, so there's kind of a wiggle, but at least the coaster train goes through it without being bashed into the face by the doors. I really wish that like you could set like a timing to them. They're like, oh yeah, they do this movement, they stay there for like a set period of time, and then they come back. That would be great. Anyways, here was another crazy moment. Because, I mean, it's a coaster about planes, about aviation and such. Of course I had to build a plane. Am I good at building planes? No, I'm not good at building any kind of vehicle. So usually I take those from the workshop because you have... I mean, I can accept I will never be good at building vehicles of any kind. Ships, cars, planes. But here it was just like, there's no planes yet on the workshop. I have to actually make this myself. And don't laugh at it. It's self-conscious. The plane is self-conscious about how it looks. I also just like this brown color. For some reason it just gives me old-timey vibes. But yeah, so I had to build a plane. And then I had to put effects on it. Again, the effects, don't look at them too closely because I still can't figure them out fully. But yeah, so the entire storyline of the coaster is basically... Because, I mean, there's a dark ride section and I like to have stories, so of course the coaster is going to have a storyline. But basically, as you enter the queue of the coaster, you're basically like a volunteer that is going to test the latest flying apparatus of the inventor, who I forgot the name of. Was it Theriot? Like, I based the name of the inventor of a French aviation person, man. What is the name for it? But basically, I think he was one of the first ones to fly over the English Channel. But then I, of course, kind of went and changed the name slightly so that's not actually the name of a real person. I will do this with probably most names that are actually real people, unless it's like King Arthur or Aladdin. And yes, Aladdin is going to have a ride in the Arabian section. Of course he is, he's one of the most well-known. But if it's like a fantasy person or somebody from mythology, I'm going to use the name. If it's based on a real person, I'm most likely just going to like screw around with the name to make it similar so that you would notice it, but not that it's like the exact same name. But anyway, so yeah, it's basically just like the story is that you're a volunteer, you're going to like test this latest flying apparatus, which we would not just call a plane. But then, of course, because it's a coaster, things go wrong. Also, the inventor, Monsieur Theriot or something. I'm actually wondering if Theriot is the real person's name. But then I'm really bad with names, so it might actually be the real person's name. And I'm thinking of like the real person's name and thinking it's the fake name that I thought of. I don't know anymore. Anyway, just the inventor, he's kind of a goofball. He's kind of chaotic. So yes, things go wrong horribly. I actually, and this was always the plan, when you go over like the lift hill and there's like the drop and you, how the coaster is set up, you hang there for a bit so you can look straight down, and I just want to have a crash site straight down just to really set the tone of the coaster of like, yeah, this is going to be chaos. But because I think of Mythos as like a more internationally geared theme park, I don't want to do any text to explain the story. So that means that I have to explain the story all visually, which to me is a lot more fun as well because I can get to build a lot of stuff. It also means that I have to build a lot of stuff, which is less fun. I mean, I like building, but sometimes... But anyway, so when it comes to like the queue, you will see like the chaos there of like, well, with the part of the queue that we've built today, I forgot to record any of like the actual story pieces, which might be a good thing, might be a bad thing, depends on how you look at it. If you want to be fully surprised, it's a good thing. If you would like to see it, but anyways, so yeah, in the part of the queue that we built today, which is the interior part of the queue, you're basically going into the entrance of his mansion. I say mansion with like huge quotation marks because the entire building is just based on a factory. But with the rest of the queue, I kind of wanted to blend in with the rest of the main street, so then like the rest of the main street is just like a city street, and then you suddenly have this huge factory. So I'm going to attempt to make it look nice, but it's still definitely a factory. But the entrance part of the queue, or at least the entrance part, is like, it's the last part of the queue. It's the interior section, but it's also the entrance into the factory itself, or into the station building itself. But that entrance bit, I first wanted it to be an office, realized I didn't have enough space to fully make it work as an office, and then it was just like, oh yeah, this is an entrance area, it's a foyer or something. There's like nice paintings on the walls, everything. Oh no, there's no nice paintings on the wall because the inventor took them down because he needed space to hang up his drawings of like all of his experiments trying to build planes. The drawings are basically just pictures of old-time planes, or, well, not all planes. There's also some air balloons or hot air balloons, but it's basically just all of the attempts to like try and make a plane in the earlier stages of trying that. And if you want to have fun, just look up like the earliest planes or the earliest attempts at building a plane, because some of them get weird. I had a lot of fun with finding all of them. But yeah, so the paintings have been taken down, and they've... brain just... Like, if you listened closely there, you would just hear, like, the Windows shutdown sound there for my brain for a second. But anyway, so yes, the paintings have been taken down, and they are just, like, replaced with just drawings that he, like... I don't know how he stuck them to the walls. I'm not going to like put down tiny pegs or nails because that's a level of detail that I'm not going to. But yes, paintings have been taken down. One of the lights is askew because probably some of his experiments exploded. I actually want to make that like a part of it because like in the top window of the station building, I've deliberately just left that sort of closed with some fabric because I want to make a scene there where every like minute or so the windows blow open with like a big explosion and such, just to really set the tone and the story of the coaster. But it's basically just like, it's total chaos. And then you go into the station itself, and then it's just like, alright, there's a lot of things hanging, there's a lot of chaos on the ground, and there's a lot of chaos hanging from the ceiling. There's chaos everywhere. And then you're boarding the coaster. Thinking like, oh yeah, it's going to be fine. No, it's not. And then you survive. Because, I mean, I don't think there's a coaster where I could let you die. I don't think that's legal in any... Well, maybe. Somewhere. Anyways, back to the actual dark ride section, because I didn't talk about the dark ride section. But basically you have the station, and then the dark ride section is like the real workplace. This is where you will see the plane, and where you really notice things are going to go wrong. I'm not going to talk too much about the rest of like what's happening in the dark ride section. I just had a lot of fun cluttering it all up because it's a factory. It's supposed to look like a mansion from the outside, or at least look fancy on the outside, and then on the inside it's just like a bomb went off. But yeah, I just had a lot of fun just creating a lot of clutter. And just having like the platforms hanging from the ceiling so that like mechanics... Because I don't think this inventor works alone. I mean, he has money if he is able to afford to live in this building. So he has help. Unfortunately, nobody knows how to build a plane because nobody knows really how to make a plane work. So things are going to go insane. But there's like platforms hanging from the ceiling so that the mechanics can work on the planes without having to like build up some platform. And no, I didn't make rails on top of the ceiling. Just because, I mean, you don't look up there when you're in the coaster. You're not actually able to because you're hanging. You're mostly either looking forward or down towards the ground. But yeah, I just had a lot of fun building the dark ride section because it's just so chaos. And I would like to have like a dark ride section with every coaster. It's not going to really work with every coaster. I mean, like a wooden coaster might... you could make a dark ride section, but I mean, when it comes to the wooden coaster, like the actual pretty thing is the coaster itself. I really just like the look of a wooden coaster and just going full on balls to the wall with all of the supports. Yeah, if I build a wooden coaster, it's not going to end well for my sanity, but then that bitch left me 5 years ago. Yeah, I think that is the channel 5 years old. Now I feel old, because for me it really just feels like I started the channel like 2 years ago. But I think it's closer to 5. Man, I'm getting old. I also recently just saw like, oh yeah, what do people think is old nowadays? And they mentioned like, oh, somebody was born in the 1990s to 2000s. No, damn we're not. I am not old. I am getting close to my 30s. No. No. Late 20s. Anyways, because I am now having a crisis over my age, I'm going to give you guys a crisis. Because we are all going to suffer together. And I'm going to give you an existential crisis because this is something that sometimes keeps me up at night. Or at least when I can't sleep, then I start thinking of this. But just... what is life after death? Because like... if like an afterlife exists, is it just that like you're somehow living there? Like you're like... let's say just like, for example, heaven exists. It's just like walking around on clouds, just doing stuff that is all weirdly pleasant, weirdly perfect. Or if you're like... are you just like looking down on Earth? Are you then like looking down at Earth like it's a giant ant farm? Or are you looking down on Earth and you're like playing The Sims? Like, are you able to just like sort of play with people? Are Sims players just all dead and they are in the afterlife and we are being controlled by them? Is playing The Sims basically just a tutorial of life or death? Or is it just like if reincarnation exists, you just like close your eyes and then you wake up screaming again? Like immediately? Or is there like a delay? Or is it just like if you die then just like the light switch goes off and you're just gone? Also, and this is the biggest one, so buckle up, I'm going to mentally destroy you. Why are you experiencing life through your eyes? Like, I'm experiencing life as me. But why am I me? Why am I not experiencing life through, like, somebody else's eyes? Why am I not them? Why am I... That's going to keep you up at night, or at least if you think anywhere like me, that is, because that's just, like, you will just go on a continuous loop. Like, why am I not experiencing life through their eyes, or their eyes, or their eyes? And, yeah. If I have to suffer from being called old, you are going to suffer from an existential crisis. You're welcome. Now, cry in the corner. That's a demand. Just go. This is what happens when I suffer from getting called old. Because I know. Just have an existential crisis here. It's on the house. Anyways, I should probably start talking again about the build. Because now we're finally working on the station. And yes, it's a lot of support beams and such. Because it's steampunk. Of course, there's a lot of iron and steel and such. But the coaster is actually, or the station is the least chaotic, I would say. Well, that is until the part where I put in stuff from the patch that I wasn't allowed to show yet, so that's why the video got delayed another week. Because I'm stubborn as an ox. The station, I constantly say it's coaster, but it's the station. Because otherwise I'm just going to confuse the hell out of you guys about like what am I talking about. If I want to do that, I start talking about the queue again and the entrance bit, which isn't the entrance of the actual queue. It's just the entrance of the station bit. But anyways, so when it comes to the station, first off, of course, a lot of support because it's a huge building, so there needs to be some kind of internal support. And it works really well with like the steampunk theme of just like having a lot of like steel beams and such. But I also needed to enclose the coaster operating area because from my experience a lot of the times these are enclosed somewhat. How they are in Planet Coaster where they're just freestanding, it just to me feels a bit off. And from what I like, the coaster operator station area, it's either next to the coaster or it's on top of the coaster, like they look down on you as you're boarding. And in a way with this coaster that could work both ways, because we have the actual coaster operating area right next or right on the station, but I also have an overhanging bit which I will admit is just blatantly taken from Baron 1898 in the Efteling. Because it's just supposed to be kind of like an office area. It's tiny, but I mean, it's not supposed to be realistic. But there could also be an operator, but they're like behind curtains, so you don't really see them. But they can see you. So yeah, but I just had to sort of enclose it. It just felt weird to have it just like out there in the open. And then I went and hyper-focused on building a chair. Because I would imagine that like these operators, they would have to stand there for a very long time. I would assume that there's like switches that like after like a few hours they switch out with another operator and such, and they have like a break. But still, I want to give them a chair so that they can at least sit while they're working, because it seems just not right to just have people standing for more than an hour. So yeah, I just built a chair and spent, I think, 30 minutes doing that. Just because I needed to get the height and everything correct. But yeah, so I just wanted to have like a nice area for the coaster operator. It's not really following the theme of the rest of the station, but then it's not visible from the rest of the station. So that kind of makes it okay for me. That like, oh yeah, the desk that they have, that's just a modern desk. It's not really themed to look like the rest of the station. It's just functional. I also gave them like, because I would imagine that like the operators and most of the stuff that's working in like the main street would have like nice fancy coats. Like those long ass coats that they had in like the 1800s. And so I just sort of mimicked the look of a coat being hung up, because I would imagine that it could get quite hot in here with all of the metal and such. And like the black roof and such. So I just imagine, alright, they're going to hang up this coat because they're just sitting there and such. Is it looking really like a coat? Probably not. Why is it purple? Because purple is basically the color of Mythos. At least the main street. I think the rest of the areas are probably going to have like their own colors. So I would imagine that like the Greek area is probably going to be... I mean, blue would also be good for the Norse area. The Japanese area is probably red. The Arabian area is kind of like a... Am I thinking of like the right color when it comes to the word teal? I don't know. But yeah. But then the Etrurian area, like both the Etrurian area, the Greek area and the Norse area could be kind of blue. I don't know. I have to actually look up at the plushies that I made for those areas. Of like, alright, what are the colors that I used for these? Because I have the memory of a goldfish. So actually, a goldfish might actually have a longer memory than I have. Probably, actually, now that I think of it. It probably have a better memory. Anyways, I also actually made it so that there's lights. Let me explain. I wanted to have lights of like, oh, when the coaster goes or is ready to go, then a green light comes on. Otherwise, the light is red. I just like that. It's just like a tiny thing that I just wanted. And here is that overhanging office area, which again is just taken straight from Baron 1898. Or is it 1989? I think 80, but I'm not sure. But yeah, this is basically just the same thing as they have in the Efteling at Baron 1898. I am now just really confused about like any name that I've mentioned in this entire voiceover. But they have this in the queue area, like the final part of the queue, which is not the entrance part of the queue. That queue is just going to mess everybody up, the way that I talk about it. But in the final part of the queue, they have this like hanging office area. I think it's where like the salaries are. Yeah, because like the name of the area, as far as I know, and this might be wrong, but it's and this is going to be Dutch, so you can turn your brain off because I know most of you guys probably don't speak Dutch. But it's at loonkantoor, which is basically salary office in English. So it's probably where like they calculate the payments. Here in this coaster, you're a volunteer, you're not getting paid. You do have to sign a contract that the inventor is not to be held liable for any kind of injury, smoke inhalation, any kind of injury as in bruises, cuts, possible dismemberment, death, you know, just the standard things. Also, your family can't sue him on your behalf. Because you're a volunteer, you signed up for this. There's no compensation. None. I had to think about that for a second. Like, maybe you get like a piece of candy. Yeah, you probably get like a piece of candy or a glass of water. Maybe a piece of chocolate, but it's like one. Like if you have like a chocolate bar, it's like one piece. I actually also wanted to build like an animatronic here on the balcony that we're building right now, like of the inventor. But here is the thing. Like I've seen people like make animatronic out of the basic shape pieces. I just know that I'm not going to be good enough at that, and it will just look like a balloon animal. Because like for a lot of things I have a lot of patience. Building the plane, weirdly I have a lot of patience for. But when it comes to building statues, or at least animatronics, I'm not going to have the patience for that. Especially when it comes to like animatronics that actually move. I mean, otherwise it's not animatronic. But when it comes to making something move, I mean, I already just ranted about the doors and the effects of like the moving platforms and such. Because I realized, oh, if you want to make something move or have it attached to a moving platform, you have to build it on the moving platform. You can't just build it and then place it on top of the moving platform, because for some reason, for me, it will just not connect. yeah, that's going to be important in the next video, where we actually tackle the full-on queue, which is not really the full-on queue, it's like 90% of it, because we built a small part of it today, but then you didn't see most of it because it was mostly just building doors. But yeah, it's just going to be it's going to be fun in the next video, because I'm going to go completely crazy trying to make it fancy and then chaotic, and then also have to think about the realistic part of like the coaster going back up and into the station. Like, how am I going to deal with that? That's all problems for future Poison. Today's Poison is just chaos. Also, just to add to the chaos, I don't know if they have these in other parts of the world, where it's just like oracle, you know, the church thingy, but then it's not a church thingy, but it does play music. Anyway, it's not important, so we're not going to think about it. This is definitely not just because I couldn't think of the English name, and I already look like too much of an idiot on the internet most of the time. I mean, I don't mind looking like an idiot, because I am. I'm proud of being an idiot. It's just that, like, yeah, I would probably spend like 40 minutes trying to figure out the English name for it, and it will not come to me. I know that. But anyway, so yeah, final part of the queue, and this is the actual final part of the queue, where you actually see the coaster and such. And I wanted this to be open so that you could see the coaster, because it creates that like anticipation. If you only saw the coaster, or at least like, yeah, the coaster in the actual station when you're in like the final bit of the coaster where you're lining up, that to me just, you could create anticipation much earlier on by showing like the station with the coaster train earlier parts in the queue. So that's why there's windows there, just because I want you to be intrigued, and it just creates a bit more openness. I just like it. Anyway, so then I had to do the backstage area. Why did I have to do the backstage area? I don't know. I just went insane. But then I think my insanity is already just like medically confirmed. It's not, but it's just, I keep saying that I'm insane, but then saying that I get more insane, which I think is medically impossible. But yeah, I just had to build the backstage area because the coaster goes through it. So, and yeah, the backstage area is just a full-on backstage area. It doesn't have any theming or anything. It's just a backstage area. So it's a lot more just like functional. There's the electrical boxes that I built in the, how many episodes ago? I don't know anymore. What is life? What is time? Here, I have another existential crisis. They are on the house tonight. But yeah, so there's like the electrical boxes. I repurposed them to make them like the sort of computers or the hardware behind the coaster. Because I would imagine that most of them now run with like computers and such. And there's of course also still mechanical stuff, but I just wanted to have like computers that are in the backstage area. This is the area that the guests are not going to see. So as I said, it's not going to be themed. It's just going to be completely functional, because the guests are going to, you know, get booted off at the unloading station. This is the part between the unloading station and the actual station where the guests are not going to be. And then I had to figure out transfer tracks. Now this is a reason why this is the second attempt at the voiceover, because in the first attempt at the voiceover, I had no idea what this was called again. But I think it's called transfer tracks, where there's a tiny section of the track here that can be switched out so that the coaster goes straight instead of curves into the station. So that it goes into the full-on backstage area. This is just like a sort of in-between section. Now I'm not going to build the full-on backstage area, because that just to me feels ridiculous. but it's just going to go into like a building to the back where, let's say, if the coaster is down, if like the park is not open yet, then the trains are there. And if like a train needs to be repaired or something, that's where it's going to go. But I also had to figure out, oh yeah, the staff pod goes through here. How do I make that work? And I also attempted to actually reroute the coaster a little bit, just to give myself more space for the transfer track. It didn't work. So I had to figure out how to make it work with just a tiny piece of transfer track. Just a tiny piece, because it's a lot easier for a transfer track when it's on like a straight piece, but this is curved. Also, the transfer track, like the actual track, again, I have no idea now. Like I'm saying transfer track so much that I'm now questioning if that's the actual name. But I made a custom track. I could probably just like build a loose piece of track from the coaster. But I just wanted to do it this way. Does it completely color match? No. It definitely doesn't. But hey, I was happy with it. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Also with any of you guys, because I do see you guys sometimes comparing your builds to mine. Don't. Bad. Don't do that. I don't have a life. You probably have. Be happy. The most important thing about any build is if you are personally happy with it. If you're happy with it, then it's a great build. If you compare it to me or any other content creators, don't. Because it's like when you're like comparing yourself to people like on Instagram or social media, they show the best parts of life. So don't try and compare it. It's because you're most likely going to lose. And you're just going to make yourself feel bad. So don't. Again, the best part of any build is that you've made it. And that's all that matters. You put the time and effort into it, and that's the important bit. So if I see any of you guys comparing your builds in the comments, don't. I will hit you with a stick. But it's like one of those sticks that you pick up as a child and try to pretend that it's a sword. It's a little bit bendy and it will break on the first hit, but I will find a stick. I will most likely also end up playing with the stick. Because if you give me a piece of yarn, I will be entertained for an hour. If you give me a stick, I will probably be entertained for like a day. I'm very easily entertained. Like I literally just have, like for work, I have like this, I don't know what it's called, but basically it's just like company cards stuff thingy, like ID thing, but it's attached to like a clip that you can pull, and then if you let it loose, then it retracts back, and it's just fun to play with. So whenever I'm bored, my colleagues will know because I'm playing with that. Yeah. I can literally entertain myself with just useless stuff for hours. Give me a pen and I will just like constantly break it down, put it back together, and that will entertain me. Inevitably, I will end up breaking the pen and then ink will go everywhere, but that doesn't matter. I'm entertained. Again, I am not kidding about like the piece of yarn. I have once entertained myself for 2 hours just playing with a piece of yarn. How? Even I don't know. I was just like sort of binding my own fingers and then untangling it and then making this a lot of things. I can't explain myself most. I do definitely feel that like as we got on later in the voiceover, it became more and more calm as more and more of the chaos just went out. And then halfway through, I gave you guys an existential crisis because I was feeling old. If I suffer, you suffer. That's just the goal of life. No, the goal of life is to be a hermit in the forest. That's in 100 years they will tell stories of. But it will be a hermit in the forest with good internet. Because I kind of like making videos, and for that I need internet. And a good PC. Anyways, latest hyperfixation fire stuff. The fire hose and such. Because it's a coaster. If something goes wrong, you want to have like safety equipment close by. I also actually made like a tiny sign of just like caution, safety first, because that just feels like something they would hang up at coasters ever, because it makes sense. Yeah, I like having like the statues that we actually have in game because they are peep sized, so I can very easily figure out like, oh, is this like sort of normal size, because like the walls are 4 meters high. That's not really normal size for a building, for like one floor to be 4 meters high. It's usually like 3 meters or something close to that. So I usually use that statue just to make sure that what I'm building is realistically sized. And now finally we're building the actual coaster train, which funny enough I made so that you would get decapitated. At least the first attempt, because I wanted it to look like a plane. If you remember the plane that I built first, like the big one, the prop one, that had like the 2 layers of the wings. And I wanted that on the coaster as well. I forgot that when you get into the actual station and such, the actual seating bit comes down. As it came down, it would clip into like the actual plane thing that I built. So you would get decapitated or your face would get bashed in. So yes, I had to make it smaller. It's not a 2-layer wing, it's 1 layer. I, however, was able to fit in the propellers so that it still looks like a plane. It makes sense for me. I mean, I'm not, as I said in the beginning, I'm not a good coaster builder. So yes, I would build a coaster where you get decapitated just by the coaster train itself. Seems perfectly logical to me. I originally also thought like, oh, should I make the propeller blades spin? It probably wouldn't. Like these would go crazy then on the actual coaster, because as you're like going down the drop and such, these propellers would just spin like crazy. So they're probably just like stuck. Like these propellers are not able to move. Yeah, I had a lot of fun building this. A lot of hyperfixation points as well. With the chair, the fire stuff, the plane. Anyways, that's also probably going to be it for today's video. So the next video of the coaster will be hopefully also the final video of the coaster. And after that there will be like the POV of the coaster as such. But the next video is going to be the queue. And hopefully, if the video is not long or too long, I would also be able to tackle the plaza in front of the coaster, because that's an integral part of the coaster, because it kind of like blends in the rest of Mythos into the coaster. So that's not just like boom, coaster in your face. But anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button. If you want to see more, there's the subscribe button. There's also memberships if you want early access to videos, even though I'm horrible with that. Anyways, I hope all of you enjoyed the video, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day. Bye bye.